some beer.
We're live.
Damn it. Now the entire internet's going to know what I drink for beer.
Well, like they weren't going to see the can when we started the podcast. So, what is up, everybody?
Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your favorite two people that do Magic the Gathering podcasts. Mike Cooley, Brad O'Brien. We don't care for your favorite. We're soon to be, if not soon to be.
That's a little presumptuous, Michael. I'm just gonna say that's a little presumptuous that we're their favorite two people that talk about Magic the Gathering.
We gotta act as if. But we got a cool show for you today. We picked out 5 cards each, our top picks for the Zendikar Rising set that's coming out here. So we have essentially 10 of our top picks that we're going to share with you guys today. So if this is your first time joining us, we are a Magic the Gathering podcast where we talk about Magic and Magic-related things. This is more geared towards the competitive player with a casual interest in finance. So if you like to scoop those cards up at good opportunistic prices, well, you're listening to the right cast.
We do offer a segment in most episodes, although we haven't been lately, that we call Snap This Up, where we will talk about cards that we think are ripe for the picking, cards that are either underpriced or cards that we think that are going to see more play in the future. I guess that's sort of the same thing. We're saying the same thing there.
Yeah, I mean, basically you should snap them up. Like, they're pretty low in price.
I'm also excited to do some flashbacks and talk about a couple of cards that we have previously talked about snapping up that I think have done well for those of our listeners that took us up on that.
Hell yeah. But I am Mike Cooley, and this is Brad O'Brien. Welcome to the Snapcast.
For those of you that are listening to the podcast, or those of you that can't read.
That is true. I've been criticized on stream before of having subpar reading skills. But I'm telling you, it's really hard when people start chatting and you got stuff going on you're trying to do, and you have to like glance over. Now the whole internet knows I'm a terrible reader. I mean, that's at least the excuse that I tell the people to, make it seem like I don't have problems.
Sometimes it's that I, have reading comprehension issues, and sometimes it's I don't care. I'm not going to put in the effort to... and you know what? Some of the most famous streamers in the Magic game are famous for their butchering of card names.
Oh, yeah.
I love Saffron Olive. I love what MTG Goldfish produces. All of their content, honestly, except for their EDH content. I love to play EDH, but I can't watch other people play it.
No,
I know that Game Nights is really popular, and that's more produced, so that's easier to consume. But I don't consume a lot of Commander content on the internet.
Yeah.
But Saffron Olive is famous for butchering things. He just, there are some things that he was saying, cacophony instead of cacophony or cacophony. That's what he was saying. Cacophony.
Well, I'm glad that you brought that up, because that was exactly how I was going to pronounce the word on this list.
I'm glad I helped you out with that, Michael. When we get there, let's wait till we get there.
No, man, I did it. I was pretty notorious for it recently. So this is what I did. A buddy of mine posted on the stream, that I was streaming. He put a comment on, and I'm like gaming and dueling and shit, and I'm trying to read and duel. And the comment said, "I'm all vacationed." And, he was mentioning that he just got back from a vacation, which I should have remembered. I knew he was coming up, doing a vacation thing. So I glance over at it and I'm like, "Whoa, dude, you're all vaccinated for what?"
I didn't even know you lived in Russia.
I didn't know there was a vaccine out, but you heard it here first.
Well, you broke the internet. Posting about a vaccinated subscriber on.
Oh man, it was bad. It was bad. But
I don't know. I would think fans of a 20-year-old video game are going to be the last ones to get vaccinated.
Right, maybe.
Oh,
you never know.
Let's see. I feel like the camera keeps darkening.
I see that too.
And we're on manual video settings. I don't get it.
It's all right. Brad's gonna mess around with this and try to figure this out. And I will let you guys know that some of these picks that we've picked this week, I'm sure that some of them were probably on your list too. And we are not saying that these are the all-time best cards to come out of the set. You might have a differing opinion.
Yeah.
But these are the ones that we think, like, for our own reasons.
I'm excited about these cards.
We're excited about.
That's the thing. I mean, everybody's going to be able to tell you that Lithoform Engine is a great card. That's the 4-mana card that has 3. It's a artifact that'll let you copy an activated ability or triggered ability or copy a permanent spell.
What?
So before we get into our list, one of the things that I did want to talk about is that there is an unlabeled mechanic in this set.
Oh, this one. Here, show them this real quick.
Yeah, we're going to switch over.
Yeah, this one. I remember seeing it, but this one didn't really catch my eye too much. Too expensive.
Too expensive money-wise or mana-wise?
Well, what is it for money? Oh, they're charging $18 for it pre-order.
Yeah.
$18, $19. Nah, mana-wise.
Look at the borderless one. That's beautiful.
It is beautiful.
Commander,
for sure. I can see it being used.
Commander staple. This will be a Commander staple.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. But here's the thing. I think most of our players, again, I feel like I want to recognize you as an enfranchised Magic player. If you are watching us on YouTube or listening to us as a podcast, you probably have watched the spoilers. You've kept up on this stuff. So I want to talk about cards that we're excited about and talk about the things that excite us about them. Everybody's going to look at Lithoform Engine and go, yeah, you probably want one of these in your collection for Commander. 4, I'm looking at the bottom activated ability on here.
That's so
4
cool.
tap. Copy target permanent spell you control.
That's so odd.
So you get a token copy of a permanent spell on the stack.
That's so odd, dude.
This is not the only card in the set that does that.
So I wonder if there's a way to abuse that, where like you have these cards that say as it would come into play. Does it get around that? Or
what do you mean?
Like, I don't know. Like I can't think of an example right now, but like, let's say you have a permanent spell, like a clone or whatnot. Does it enter and just never has the as thing happen? Do you know what I mean?
Why? It still enters the battlefield.
Okay.
It enters as a copy of that spell.
Okay. All right, I get it now.
I mean, the permanent on the battlefield is just a token, but everything that would happen with that happens with this ability.
God, that's weird.
The other card I don't want to bring up yet because it's on my list.
Oh.
But copy target permanent spell. So it is a clone. This is a clone effect.
Yeah.
But it's also, this can be a fork effect, or it can be a clone effect.
Wow.
Or you can copy. So say you have a legendary permanent. Say you're talking about a Gyruda deck. Gyruda decks play all the clones in the world trying to make multiple copies of Gyruda. Well, if you only have the legendary Gyruda, you can just double the trigger.
Oh my God.
If you have one of the non-legendary copies, you can copy the copy.
So this
you have to have a ton of mana.
So this just instantly makes the Dice Factory decks, right? Like this is, I mean, because you can just tap a mana rock for a ton of mana, use 2 of it, and like copy. Can you do that? Can you like copy a mana ability?
I mean, as long as it's a activated ability, so you can copy Planeswalker activations.
Wow.
You can if you have the mana, you can crack a fetch, pay 2, and go get 2 lands.
That's insane.
So
that's insane.
Again, Lithoform Engine is not on my list, not because it's not a great card, but because I think everybody knows this is a great card.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a great card.
Yeah.
I'm not as fired up about it because if a card is over like 3 mana with me, you really got to be impressive, dude. And like, it's impressive, but it's not like Jace the Mind Sculptor impressive. So therefore, it doesn't make my list either.
I thought this was interesting, and again, I will bring it up later on my list because this copy target permanent spell, I don't recall ever having seen this before, other than a clone effect that copies a permanent.
Maybe it was like errata back in like some alpha, beta, unlimited BS language.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think I've seen this any. Yeah. I mean, I've never seen copy target permanent spell. Usually it's
Copy a permanent.
permanent, right?
Right. So on the stack, you can create a copy.
God, that's
So
nuts.
how about somebody, you're worried about a counter spell. You play it, somebody counters it, you activate this and make a copy of the spell on the stack, and your copy resolves.
Yeah. And you could also like copy their spell that's countering, or their spell or ability that's countering whatever spell.
It's you control.
Oh, it does say you control. Oh, all of them are you control. Oh,
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
But still, that's nuts.
Yep.
Man, that's nuts. And copies can't be countered. Like
Because you can't target a copy.
Yeah, right. Like, I mean, it never, but by the looks of this is never a spell on the stack. Like, it's the ability, like copy the spell. Yep. But when that resolves, you instantly have a permanent on the battlefield.
Yeah, it's definitely
So,
going to
like,
be interesting release notes
That's
with this.
really,
some of
really
these cards.
weird. I'm confused by it, but I feel like that confusion is going to lead to great things with the card, for sure.
Yeah. Well, it's the opportunities to outplay your opponent, or have abilities on board that your opponent is not expecting, and interactions that they might not have
Yes.
seen before. I feel like that's one of those areas that you excel at, Michael.
Well, hey, as long as someone else has done it first and I can copy their I can copy their lead.
Yeah.
So let's dive in to this,
To the list?
to the top 10 picks that we have. We've talked
All right.
about this awesome card so far. We do like Lithoform Engine. However, you know what card I am super excited
Okay,
about?
we're starting with yours.
I could tell where you were going with that. He was pointing at me like, where do we want to start? I just took it right
Take
there.
control.
That's right.
Well, I was going to rock, paper, scissors you to see who goes first.
We can still do that. We got to look at the camera though. Ready?
Yeah.
It's on shoot, so it goes 1, 2, 3, shoot. Ready?
Okay.
1, 2, 3, shoot. Bam, got it.
I swear he changed his.
I didn't. I swear I didn't.
Okay.
It just happened to be
We're
behind.
going to let it go. I think I am getting a delivery here. You guys are going to laugh at me, but like a fat kid likes cake, Brad likes himself.
Delivery from Dairy
Delivery
Queen.
from Dairy Queen.
Oh man,
I mean, I can't let this. I can't let this sit.
got to do it, man. You got to jam it.
Okay, so Mike is going to talk about his first card. We're going to switch over.
First card. I'm going to start with I guess I'm going to start with this one. This
Number 5.
number 5. Okay, yeah. So we're counting down. I counted up when I listed them. This is
So
like
this
a
was
card
your-
that I'm
this
so
was your
pumped
number
about.
1?
All right, we're skipping right to my number 1, I guess.
So this is what we get for doing our first top 5 live on the cast.
That's all right, man. Like, I feel like they're all equally pretty sweet. But so yeah, this card right here, Wayward Guide Beast. They made a new Goblin Guide. And here I would argue they probably made it a little better. This is a potentially better Goblin Guide.
Better for who?
Better for burn decks that are going to use this, dude.
Okay.
And here's why, right? Because David Doofer says it's a lot worse.
It's a lot worse.
Let me explain. So this is why I think this is better than Gob Guide. And so first of all, it has to deal damage to the opponent before the bad thing happens. You know what I mean? Like,
You're only bouncing a land if you hit.
yeah, it only bounces land if it hits. If they deal with it, then nothing happens. But if they don't and they take the 2 and you bounce a land, right? Like, okay, if you're a burn deck that's running this, like, and you drop that turn 1, it's not the most ideal situation. But at the same time, you're not dead on 1 land with a burn deck. So like next turn, you can drop something else out, drop a Gob Guide out. You could even, drop another one of these guys out, and now you don't necessarily have to pay as much for it. You know what I mean? But that is a pretty shitty part for the most part. Like in those instances, that's like the least ideal is when you're turn 1ing this guy. But here's why that's not a bad thing, because they didn't deal with it. Like they didn't
If
deal
it's
with
still
the
on
card.
board, yeah.
Like, so you got the damage in, and they probably can't deal with it next turn, or they probably won't. But aside from that, think about this. how often do burn decks sandbag the lands in their hand just for like Searing Blaze? You know what I mean? They sandbag the lands in their hand for Searing Blaze, just so that eventually, you know, when they get a Searing Blaze, they can, you know, fire it off by dropping a land in their hand. Granted, should you completely abandon that strategy? Probably not. But this is just also something that allows you to get that landfall trigger again.
And that's where I think this. I don't think it's better than Swift Spear, though. That's interesting. I mean, obviously the prowess, and you're talking about a traditional burn deck, not a prowess deck.
Yeah. So like traditional burn, yeah, for sure.
That's interesting, Doofer.
I would agree. I think Swift Spear is better than this card. I would agree, and that's just because there's no drawbacks to it, and you can hide so much information with a Swift Spear. There's no hiding information really with this card. Nor is there really gaining as much. I would say that would be the only advantage that Gob Guide has over this card, is that you gain knowledge of what your opponent has.
You see their top deck. If you, especially on turn one, that information.
Yeah.
When they flip over a lightning bolt or a death shadow or something, and you all of a sudden know what they're on. That's interesting.
Like, so it does have its drawbacks. Like, it does have its drawbacks. But I'll tell you, like, turn one, I would say Gob Guide is probably a close race with this guy. Like, you know, if not slightly better. Like, you know what I mean?
Tron land. Yeah, that's true too. You definitely don't want to see that.
Yeah, exactly. Because they jam the Tron land right in their hand. And then you're like, oh, damn it. Like, you know, so yeah, turn one, it's a close race with these two. Like, you know, you still can kind of gain some information depending on who went first. But, like, at the same time, it's a close race on turn one. But I think on turn two, this card significantly beats Goblin Guide. Like, it's just always a better play on turn two than Goblin Guide. You know what I mean? Or any turn other than one. It's just a way better play than Goblin Guide. And granted, that I think that's what makes Goblin Guide good, is because it's so good on turn one. Yeah. It's so vicious. But I think this card has the potential to be just as vicious. Yeah. You know
so
what I mean?
My fear is with this one is on turn one, you play it, you attack, you bounce your land back to your hand. You're never getting to 2 mana. Like, you would have to then take a turn off on an empty board.
Which is true. But then again, that assumes they're not dealing with this card.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So you're swinging in every turn.
They have to take the damage for that to happen. So if you go turn one, 2 damage off this guy, and then turn two, you lay your land down again, and I don't know, let's say you slam another one, or you slam a Gob Guide, or you slam a Swift Spear, or something. Mm-hmm. Like, they have to take that damage for the bad effect to happen. So now they've taken 4 damage that you paid 1 mana for, and you set yourself back a land drop that in your deck really doesn't matter that much. You know what I mean?
I actually think this guy having trample is a thing that could be exploited.
And I was getting there too. One of the things that sucks about Gob Guide is, like, when you have...
Exactly.
This card could be good with step links or the landfall critters. Oh, shit. That's such a good point. And there was a landfall critter that was printed in red. Yeah. In red. There was a step links, basically, a red step links printed. And, like, that makes it... Burn is definitely going to be a thing again with this set. Like, you know, the fact that you can keep bouncing that land back, and, like, now you got your step links doing some stuff. Oh, man. It's just ridiculous. A very good point, Doofer.
Yeah.
And, like,
the red step links fits right in with this guy.
Oh, absolutely. So yeah, I would think turn one, it's a close race between the two. This one and Gob Guide. Anything other than turn one, this is so much better than Gob Guide. Like, and I know that sounds weird because a lot of people are like, well, Gob Guide is good because it's good on turn one. This is also equally as damaging on turn one. So it's, you know, something to think about. But yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. Card is sick, dude.
I'm almost done being the most unprofessional podcaster. Oh, man. But when somebody hand delivers you a blizzard, what are you going to do? Put it in the fridge and wait for later? I mean...
You got to eat it.
You got to eat it.
You got to eat it.
So, shout out to Charlie. He done me right.
He's a good dude.
Hey, my number 5...
All right.
If we're counting down to our best cards, and if you want, we can flip your list.
I'll just pick one randomly.
You tell me what's next.
All right.
But I want to talk about something that I think might actually go well with your Wayward Guide Beast. Is Maul of the Skyclaves. I think that, you know, when we first started talking about this set, we looked at the Nahiri spoiler. We talked about Nahiri's ability makes a 1/1 warrior and allows you to attach an equipment for free. One of the things that is true of all of the equipment they have spoiled in the set is that they automatically equip to a creature when you play them. So for 3 mana, you're going to give a creature +2/+2, flying and first strike.
This is so good in Geist decks. Like this is so good in, like, have you ever seen those tempo style Geist commander decks?
No.
That's literally all of what they try to do. They try to get, some sort of buff on their Geist that makes them evasive and bigger so that they can survive a pyroclasm. And this does that. Like, it does everything. It makes your guy tough with, like, +2/+2 and first strike, but it also makes him very evasive. And now you've got a big problem on your hands. Like,
now 2 white is a pretty costly equip cost after. I mean, even 3 mana, like you were saying, when you're trying to evaluate new cards, and we're thinking with the mindset of non-rotating formats, we're thinking about Modern, Legacy, whatever, Pioneer, Historic, if you're an Arena player, you're looking for low-cost things. But there are tons of artifact and equipment synergies. And one of the things that I think is not obvious yet, but Wizards has planted the seeds for how artifacts are going to be used, not just in this set, but in Kaldheim and in future sets. So I'm looking at these as sort of signposts, and they've given us creatures. And so I will give one of my honorable mentions to Core Blade Master.
oh, he's a core. We talked about this.
He's
this
a
tribe
core.
last week.
But so this is he didn't make my list, but he made my honorable mentions because Core Blade Master is a core warrior with double strike.
Oh wow!
Any equipped warrior you have has double strike.
Oh my god!
So Nahiri's tokens, they're warriors.
So you slam this guy turn 2, and turn 3 you slam that equipment on him, and suddenly he's a 6/6 flying a 6/6 flyer.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's stupid.
And it's an auto equip. So, and then what? They kill him, and then on turn 4 you play Nahiri, make a token automatically equip.
Well, it doesn't automatically equip. It only equips when it comes into play.
No. With
Nahiri's ability.
Nahiri,
oh my god, yep. Yeah. Oh,
she does that.
That's so good.
So my sort of number 5 card was that Maul of the Skyclaves, but really that represents Embercleave also had auto equip. Yep. It's true. That was sort of the progenitor to this being the common way for these to work, and is still in standard for another year.
Yeah. And I think what Brad's saying is, like, they might be kind of adjusting how they're dealing with equipments. Like, because if you think about some busted things about equipments in the past, is they had such a low equipped cost. But like, if you make them auto equipped and then you charge them for it later, you know what I mean? Yeah. Suddenly they become just as devastating. But if you deal with the threat, you can kind of stave off for a little bit.
It's like any good drug dealer. The first one's free. After that, you're really going to pay.
The rest of the hits they're gonna cost you. Yeah, that's
so,
sweet.
Mike, what's your next card?
My next card is my number 4 pick, which Brad had really talked up a couple weeks back. And the more I think about it, the more I've changed my mind. And that card is Cleansing Wildfire. This card is sick. This card is sick.
So what brought you around?
Dude, well, this is what I think you should ask, what made me think this card was ever bad?
Yeah, what drugs were you on last week?
Right. It was like the initial, I see something almost too good to be true, and I'm like, wait, no. Like, nah. They wouldn't print something like this at Common if it was that good. It's Common. It's got to be not that great. Dude, this card is insane. This should have been a rare, but the reason it's not is because they're sick of Tron and Pauper. Like, that's literally why they printed this at Common, I think. They were like, yeah, this could easily be like a rare quality card, but yeah, you know what? Here you go. here you go, Pauper players. Like, now you can deal with
We're
Tron.
going to toss you a bone.
Yeah, dude, this is like one of the best land destruction spells ever printed.
Yeah.
Like, this is amazing.
I might have intimated that last week.
I think so, man. Like, so if you think about it, right? You have your Field of Ruin effect, right? That you're paying 2 mana for. It's like the same. It's technically less mana than Field of Ruin, right? Or, well, kind of the same. Because Field of Ruin gets you a land.
Gets you a land back as well, yeah.
But so it's like same cost as Field of Ruin, and it's cantripping for you.
Burn sideboard, you evil bastard.
Oh, shit, dude. Yeah, I mean, it probably is, though, right? Like, think about it. How does Tron deal with land right now? Molten Rain.
Yeah.
Like, this is so much better.
3
than
mana
that.
is so much.
Yeah, and you don't want to be Molten Raining at 3 mana to deal 2 damage to a non-basic land.
Yeah.
You know, if they have a non-basic land, and then you're like,
and you're down a card.
Yeah, and you're down a card. You know, so this is just like, all right, your land gets destroyed, but now I have the ability to rip into my Wayward Guide Beast and jam in for 2. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like you have the ability to present another devastating threat.
So for those that are listening and don't recall from last week, Cleansing Wildfire is a 1 and a red sorcery, destroy target land. Its controller may search their library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped.
It's
and
not
then
even
shuffle their library, draw a card.
So it's not even untapped. Like, that's another cool thing about it, right? And it's not non-basic. It's not like, I mean, literally, if you have something that you want to do on your second main phase, but you don't want your opponent to counter it, you can just blow up their basic island that they're holding up and tap it down and then draw a card. And then you're just like, all right, I really didn't want you to counter this Vexing Devil I'm about to slam down. I want you to make the decision. You're like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, then it's like, damn it. You know what I mean? You gain information off that. You know, so it's just one of those things that like, it's.
I think this is a great pick for your list.
Oh man, it's Brad. You changed my mind on it, man. Just talking to you, thinking it through. God, this card is so good, man. It's definitely my top 5 picks. Cleansing Wildfire. Get your foils, dude, when they're cheap. If you crack a foil, don't you let it go.
I think there was a reason why they picked that flower to be in the preview video.
That's
true.
Know
what I mean?
That's true. Yeah, and I think Wizards had said probably, I want to say like 2 or 3 years ago now, that they were trying to move towards printing cards at different rarities that were just as good as rares. And I think this is a prime example right here of, you know, a common card that if you look many years ago could have easily been a rare.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's so good.
I don't know. I mean, I don't want to deviate too much from our plan here, but there's been so many conversations recently about the downshifts, the upshifts, the power level of cards that they've given, obviously at common, and then the color pie breaks. There's so many people that are flipping out that now black has targeted enchantment removal.
Yeah, that's nuts.
I mean, that's a new thing.
Yeah.
Destroy target creature or enchantment. You lose life equal to that permanent CMC.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're definitely changing their design philosophy a little bit. But
yeah,
Cleansing Wildfire is an awesome card. I think that's like you said, Pauper right through to Modern and Legacy. That will be a staple for sure.
I think so, man.
And it will not be expensive.
No.
How awesome is that?
It's so nuts. I mean, it's just really good. I can even see this potentially being used in Legacy. And I know that sounds crazy, but like, can you just imagine
what better land do they have in Legacy?
Right. Like, you know what I mean? Do you even have basics? Like, and if you don't, like, you're gonna have to counter this spell. It's a 2-mana Thought Seize at that point, but you're always gaining card advantage. Like, you're always gaining card advantage after playing this spell. You're tapping down a land at least, and you're getting card advantage. Like, you're cycling through your deck. It's so good, man. Like, this might be one of the best land destruction cards they ever printed. So
Doofer, what do you think you're going to board this in? I mean, Tron, I guess. When what you posted that you were excited about playing this in the sideboard of Burn. Is there a specific thing that you're thinking about, or is it just literally take out Molten Rain, put this in?
I think that's probably, like, that makes the most sense. I don't think Molten Rain stays in.
Is it even a sideboard staple? I haven't looked at a burn list in a while. Let's
check them out, dude.
let's just flip over to Goldfish for a second. Tron and Eldrazi. Ugh. My boys. Why would you go after my boys?
Yeah.
Modern.
Yeah, I mean, it
Blitz
makes
is the
all the
big
sense in
thing.
the world.
Are they running any landy on the side? No. So let's take a look at. Let's see if we can find burn. It is not in the top 12 decks right now.
Which is, yeah, that's weird. Modern metagame.
There we go.
Yep. Loris of the Dream Den is this recent? Like, these are still, well, no, this went 3-2. It's a sample deck.
And that's, yeah.
Yeah.
Modern preliminary from September 9th. So this was yesterday. It was a prelim event.
Yep. So it's running the Swift Spear, Gob Guide, Eidolon. Yeah.
No landy whatsoever.
Yep. No land destruction.
Is the new EDH card on your guys' list? You got to come a little more specific than that.
Oh,
we talked about the Lithoform engine earlier, but
is that the one? Because that was an honorable mention. Honorable. I think we left it off because everybody just knows it's good. Like, everybody knows it's good.
I'll be interested. He might throw something totally different out that I haven't thought about. Because there's also like the 4 green guy that's a ridiculous EDH card. I mean, there's a...
Dude, I wonder if in the sideboard of like a burn deck such as this, that Core Firewalker comes out for the land destruction. Now, hear me out. Hear me out, right? If your opponent never gets to 2 white land, they can never cast their core Firewalker.
Okay.
So if you're playing against burn and you just bring in your cleansing wildfire, and you're just like, all of your dual lands that you have, I'm gonna hit them. All your red white ones, bam, I'm gonna hit them.
Right, because you don't have any planes.
Right, like you don't have any planes. You're gonna go for a mountain, maybe a couple of times, but you're gonna have all red. Kawa, what's up, dude? You remember the guy that I was telling you about? That like Kawa. We were just telling the story of how I pronounced vacationed as vaccinated one day because I'm an awesome reader. This is the guy. He's coming in, dropping in. What's up, dude? Thanks for joining us, dude. I appreciate you. So if your opponent doesn't get to turn 2.
Well, we're saying if you're in a burn mirror, if you were using cleansing wildfire to blow up their lands, they don't have any basic planes. So you can keep them off double white. So they're never getting to play Core Firewalker.
So you go, your turn 1 is like, Gob Guide or something. And then your turn 2, after they fetch out a red white, you're just like, yeah, blow that up, go get a red. You're never playing your Core Firewalker. Or at least it's going to be like turn 3 before you jam that out. And it's going to be so bad.
It is weird. I think in a burn mirror, there's a tempo loss there. Like, yeah, you're going to keep them off a sideboard card, but you didn't bolt them that turn.
Right.
So,
but they just fetch shocked for a basic land. It's basically what you just did to them.
Yeah, and you drew it again.
Yeah.
David Dufrum building an EDH deck again. All right.
Oh, man.
All right. I'm in.
Sweet. But yeah, so that's we should move on to your 4th pick.
Okay. I like this. So my 4th pick.
Or 2nd pick of the cast, but 4th most important to you.
Right. 5/4, counting down. Luminarch Aspirant. So this meets your criteria of being a sub 3 mana card for sure.
Oh yeah, I love this guy.
This also meets your criteria of having something to do with +1/+1 counters. Luminarch Aspirant. 1 and a white. Creature, human. Creature, cleric. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Luminarch Aspirant is a 1/1 for 2. But if you play this in your first main phase and you put the counter on him, it's a bear.
Yeah. Well, also, there's been plenty of times in the standard metagame, maybe not like recently within the last few sets, but how many times have you seen this happen in like the standard metagame where someone plays that generic, 1/1 for 2 mana that pumps a creature when it comes into play or puts a 1/1 counter on another creature? This guy does it every turn.
Every turn.
Every turn. So he does it right when he, basically right when he comes into play. like at the beginning of combat, and then he just does it again, dude.
Selesnya counters is definitely a thing in standard M21. What's the signpost green-white card that's basically a hardened scales? It's another...
Oh, is it green-white or is it green-black?
No, you're thinking of the snake from a long time ago.
Yeah, I thought they just reprinted one that was green-black too, but no, you're right, it was green-white.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah,
so,
Selesnya
counters, so this guy, the cleric, yeah. Oh, that's interesting. So the other one is a cleric too.
Oh my God, you guys got to get your Starlit Sanctums, man. Remember I told you to snap that up? Get your Starlit Sanctums. I'm telling you.
In any, in Pioneer, if you've got hardened scales in that format and you go turn 1 hardened scales, turn 2 this, you've got a 3/3 for 2. On the next turn, you attack with it as a 5/5 if you want.
God damn.
That's pretty good.
That's nasty, dude.
So, I mean, more than I do what the capabilities of that deck are, but certainly thinking about it in Pioneer, now that Ballista is not a thing, how are you getting through? I just think this is a card that probably a lot of people are going to sleep on. It may not do a lot. Archon of Emirian Yasserin. Archon of Emeria, that's the hate bear, right? Play 1 spell and non-basic lands come in tapped.
Ah, God, that's nuts.
Yeah.
That is really good.
3 mana, 2/2 flyer or 2/1 flyer or something.
Wow, dude. Yeah, there's this set. I mean, the power level has been increasing in cards so much over the past few years that, like, I don't even know why we're surprised by this stuff anymore. Like, oh yeah, this dude that's just gonna jam a counter on something every turn at a very reasonable mana cost. Yeah.
And that's the thing, like
common.
You guys that are coming in. Oh, that's Charlie. Hi, Charlie.
Hey, what's up, Charlie?
I want to let you know I gave you mad props for the delivery on the.
That's right. Charlie was actually just in our podcast with the delivery of the
Charlie's arm was on display.
He nailed it.
But we picked these cards not as being the best or most powerful cards, but as the card that interested us or cards that we thought might not get a lot of attention. Although I think some of the cards on my list are definitely getting attention, and some of the cards on your list, Cleansing Wildfire. Holy crap.
Yeah. Well, here's another thing about this card too, is that this is a very odd timing for this to happen. And that's it's when you have an at the beginning of combat on your turn trigger, it's very odd timing and can tell you something about your opponent's hand, right? So like they then have to make a decision.
This is Scryfall, Kawa. So Scryfall.
Yeah.
We also have some other sites up, but Scryfall does a really good job of letting you search for cards that haven't been released yet, cards that you wouldn't be able to find on Gatherer. Sorry, Mike.
No, you're all good, dude. But no, like the timing of that is just weird. You know what I mean? Because now they have to deal with some of your board before you actually attack.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's just odd timing where you can kind of catch them off guard. Even if they think they got you when you play this card, they're like, oh, you're targeting that creature? I'm going to remove it. Okay, that's great. Now I know you're not going to be able to deal with the combat trick that I have, like because you've expended your trick before I went in for it. So it's I like these 2-drop cards that can, like, if you're really thinking ahead, they can tell you something about your opponent's hand. I've been a fan of those ever since Steel Overseer, dude. You know that.
Man, like, I just realized we've been at this for almost 40 minutes. And we
gotta jam it. All right, next card.
What's your next card?
My next card, my number 3 card here. You guys know I'm excited about this one. It is the new Hedron Crab named Ruin Crab. God, this is so good. We talked about this a little bit, right, in the previous cast, and I think this is so good for so many reasons. Like, Mill is one of my favorite decks in Modern. It is not a very, like, elite competitive deck, but nothing feels better than when you mill out your opponent's entire deck and they can't draw a card. Like, nothing feels better than that. You're like, I did it. You just feel like you won the game in such a different way that your opponent didn't expect.
60 damage to you or whatever.
And you haven't even done 20 damage to me. But the problem that Mill decks had in the past, especially with one of their most powerful cards, Hedron Crab, is that it targeted your opponent. So people would bring in Leyline of Sanctity and you'd just be screwed. But this card gets around Leyline of Sanctity and it's got the new Mill wording in there. Man, it's so good. And how is that, David? How's Doofer? How we looking? A little better?
What chat is distracting?
The chat is just
Sorry, looking to see what's on the chat over here. Really?
Doofer, you're distracting us with your chat.
Maybe that's what he meant.
No, I'm just kidding, man.
So from a financial perspective, in this year, mill has become literally a keyword mechanic.
Oh yeah.
Target opponent mills.
Yep. Finally they did it.
There are tons of rogues that they have printed and other cards recently that have mill. If there's even a slim chance that you ever want to play mill, I'd be looking at your Glimpse the Unthinkables. I'd be looking at your Archive Traps. Oh, that's my point. We, the chat, keeping you off topic. That's okay. We would rather
you all good,
do that.
dude.
We're going to get through our list. We're not worried.
Good, dude. We appreciate that. I mean, look, we got all the goddamn time in the world. Like, we just love talking about this stuff with you guys. And like, you know, we have an idea and wherever.
Cooley's got to punch the clock at 8:00 because he's got a real stream to do later on.
Please. I'm all good.
Cow is waiting for him to get home so that Cooley can play some Diablo.
No, Cow is just going to troll me when I go on there.
Good. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent mills.
Yeah, it's so good, man. It doesn't target, which is just so good. Like in a mill deck, I can't even tell you how invaluable that is, that it just says each opponent. Like it's so good. Trolling him here is fine. But yeah.
Excellent. I approve.
So you all knew that from like a couple of weeks ago when they first spoiled this card. I've been a big fan of Ruined Crab. I can't wait. I'm getting some from my mill deck. Brad, what is your number 3 pick?
My number 3 pick is a human.
Oh man, of course it is.
Not because I think that I'm going to play this in humans, but I think that this card is definitely going to have a life in Standard. Ooh. For 1 and a blue, you get Nimble Trap Finder, who is a 2/1 human rogue. Nimble Trap Finder can't be blocked if you had another cleric, rogue, warrior, or wizard enter the battlefield under your control this turn. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you happen to have a full party, which means you have one each of these 4 creature types represented on the battlefield in 4 different creatures, you get a Curious Obsession on that unblockable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mostly, this is a 2/1 creature that can be unblockable in a deck that's built the right way. And so if you play this in a blue-white shell that happens to be playing that Skyclave Maul, that makes this guy a 4/3 first strike flyer.
Yeah, that's pretty nasty. I figured this guy would be more valuable for his second ability, which seems, I mean, it's asking a lot.
It is
right?
asking
I mean,
a lot.
It is kind of asking a lot, which is my only drawback to it. But dude, tell me this doesn't say.
Charlie, hold on. Charlie just pointed out creatures you control gain Curious Obsession.
Yeah, it's all creatures you control. So
I just
that's
shit myself.
It's asking a lot, but this is what I was about to say is this card for 2 mana. How often do you draw 4 cards in one turn and not win the game? You're going to ask yourself that too. Like, I know when you look at this card, you're like, yeah, that's just too hard to get to. But like, if you crack your opponent and draw 4 fucking cards, how are you losing that game? You probably aren't. Like, that's the thing. So, I mean,
well, and the cool thing is rogues are getting close to having their own archetype for sure. This might be just an EDH staple.
Yeah, I mean, it could be.
Because it's whenever a creature deals damage to a player, attack 3 players, get 3 cards. Kawa asked how we feel about party. If we think party is going to be a played mechanic.
I think in the cards that basically they have to do something broken. Like we kind of alluded to it in the tutor that we have that was spoiled in a couple of weeks ago. But we alluded to the fact that party needs to do broken shit when you have the party, or else it's gonna be difficult to get to.
Having 4 creatures on the board and not already winning.
Yeah. So I mean, you look at the tutor, the 5-drop tutor that says this card costs 1 mana if you have a full party, and it's a demonic tutor for 1 mana.
Yeah.
I believe at the speed of an instant. Like like that is the type of busted shit that you need to have if you have a full party.
You need that kind of reward.
Like if we see, cards that with party that refer to a full party that don't really pay off much, I don't think you're not gonna see much use out of those cards. But that's why I say this card right here in particular, if you pull this off, you're probably winning the game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so for 2 mana, it says you win the game if you have a full party. Because if you crack your opponent and you draw 4 cards, the game is probably yours. Like, even if they block 1 or 2 of them, you get in, you trade with a couple of their creatures, and you get in for like 4 or 5 damage, and you draw 2 cards.
Yep.
The 2 that you just lost, you're cantripping, you're replacing them.
You don't have to sell me, Mike.
Like,
I put it on my list.
Oh, yeah.
All right. This is though, talking about party as a mechanic is a great place to take a brief diversion from our list. When I look back at the last 5-6 years of playing Magic, one of the things that I noted, and I mentioned this to Mike earlier today in our spreadsheet, we had a whole year or almost 2 from Kaladesh until Eldritch Moon. That was all about. Oh, sorry, I backed up. Let me think about this. So, when did we start thinking about the Eldrazi? Right.
Oh man, Eldrazi have been around since
BFC to Eldritch Moon. Sorry. Yeah. So from Battle for Zendikar, all the way through Eldritch Moon, all of those sets really were a story about the Eldrazi.
Mm.
And so all of those sets, that whole year or whatever, was really about that one story, and everything led to it. Then when you talk about Nicol Bolas, that went from Kaladesh all the way through War of the Spark. So even though Wizards changed their mindset to, okay, we don't want to do 3-set blocks anymore. We're only going to do 1 or 2-set blocks. What they did was they made the story go over 4 different planes, 4 different blocks.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
When I'm looking ahead, knowing that they have a D&D set coming out.
Oh, man. And what are the typical creatures in D&D?
What do you need to have in your party? Yeah,
exactly. And I mean, all this is going to take to be like kind of busted is the fact that like you go turn 1, play some card that gives you 2 creatures. Like, maybe it makes a 1/1 and another 1/1 that are 2 different creature types, and then turn 2, you play something similar, and turn 3, you jam this guy, and or even if you just play 1 creature on turn 2, and then you jam this guy and he fits the mold, and then you crack your opponent with 3 characters and or 3 creatures and draw 3 cards. God, dude, it's so good.
So when you ask me, do I think that party is a good mechanic? In Zendikar Rising, I think it is going to be very challenging to build a functional party mechanic deck. But I think knowing that we're going to Kaldheim, which is absolutely going to be jam-packed full of warriors, and then we're going to go to Strixhaven, which is a wizarding school that is going to be absolutely jam-packed with wizards. This set is jam-packed with rogues and clerics. They are setting us up to go to the Forgotten Realms D&D set that I think that they are setting us up. I think you're right. This is a super fragile mechanic, but I think they are building us up to the D&D set.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I think that's the drawback to it, is that it is fragile. So that's what I mean when I say like you need to have something busted happen, like if you pull it off, because it is a big ask. But the good thing about that pick that you had was it does also have a decent other ability that you're just gonna get.
It's just gonna be unblockable.
You're gonna get cracked for 2 damage each turn. Like blue wants to put you on a clock.
All right, Mike. What's your next card?
Next card, I'm going to go right back to this mill strategy I've been talking about, and I'm going to pull off a saffron olive here. I'm going to call this maddening cacophony. What is it, cacophony? How do you pronounce this?
Cacophony. Maybe it's having been in band and music. I'm quite familiar with a maddening cacophony.
Dude, so this card is sick, man. Like, again, I can't stress this enough. This could even replace Glimpse the Unthinkable. Mark my words. This could replace Glimpse the Unthinkable in Modern Mill.
Is that the Dimir one?
It's the Dimir one that says Mill 10.
So,
and here's why. It says each opponent. Like, it gets
Doesn't
around
target.
the target. And then here's the kicker, literally. Here's the kicker. It only mills 8 cards, and I say only. That's still pretty substantial. Like, 2 mana, mill 8, right? But if you get the kicker, we pay 4 extra mana, so you pay 6. They mill half their friggin' deck.
Round it up. Whatever's left, half.
And you know, if you're pulling this off that late in the game, like, it has diminishing returns, no doubt. But, like, you can always choose which one to do. That's the crazy thing about this. Like, everybody was so hyped up about Traumatize back in the day because they're like, oh, opponent mills half their library. You can't put a card like that in a mill deck because if they have 10 cards left, you're like, God damn, I wish this was a Glimpse or Glimpse, like you know what I mean? You can't do that. But now you can choose. Like, is the number of cards in their library greater than 16? Then I'm going to kick this if I can. If it's not, then I'm going to cast it for 2. Like, you know, it's super cool, man. Like, just the decisions that it allows you to make and the fact that it does not target is so cool.
So, obviously, people are going to be building mill. If there are mill staples that you want or need.
And, dude, think about this, too. This is not, like, next level, right? You could take black out of Modern Mill and
that
build
was my
blue
thing.
Modern Mill.
That's why I wanted to verify that Glimpse the Unthinkable was the Dimir spell, because now you've got a really good mana base.
Yes.
And are they playing Mystic Sanctuary in mill yet?
No. But, I mean, you probably wouldn't because, I mean, we have stuff like, you know, we have Mesmeric Orb, which, you know, you never really know
what's going to stay on your library.
What's going to stay on the top of your library. So, I mean, like, you can't really play that. But, like, we have cooler land cards, too. We have the blue card that, like, allows
the hideaway?
The hideaway land. Like, you know, but either way, now the point is you can potentially take black out of Modern Mill.
Okay, what happens?
And you can run the Force of Will, the Force of Negation, like, pretty easily in the deck.
Ooh.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's just the options that pop up here are just insane with this card. So,
do you think there's any shot that they're going to reprint Modern Horizon 1 cards in Modern Horizons 2?
Yes, I hope they do. They need to reprint Force of Negation. I literally thought of that today. I was like, obviously they're reprinting Force of Negation.
In Modern Horizons 1, they said specifically that they were not going to print any cards that were already Modern legal. There were some reprints in there, but they were cards that were not originally Modern legal. They've already said that they're putting the enemy fetch lands in Modern Horizon 2.
Ooh.
So Modern Horizons 2 can't have that same blanket stipulation.
Right.
I really hope that they reprint Force of Negation and a few other cards again in Modern Horizons 2. But let's move on.
Absolutely. What's your next pick, man? This card looks sweet.
This guy is getting some talk. He is a bad Snapcaster Mage variant. There's been a million, just like there's a million Bob variants, there's a handful of Snapcaster Mage variants. But Seagate Stormcaller is my number 2 pick here. Is 1 and a blue for another human.
Yeah.
Go figure.
Yep.
Human wizard. This guy can play well with my last pick, the Trap Finder. When Seagate Stormcaller enters the battlefield, copy the next instant or sorcery spell with converted mana cost 2 or less you cast this turn when you cast it. I don't know why they had to have that last phrase on there, like you are not going to copy it later. But
well, they needed the triggered ability because it's a delayed effect. You need to have the triggered wording, and when is a trigger.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's stupid.
Lawyer Cooley.
Yeah, I mean, it's just how it works.
But if Seagate Stormcaller was kicked, copy that spell twice, and you may choose new targets for the copies. This is a cool card, and they do not put 2 mana 2/1s at Mythic unless they're thinking this is going to be real bad and limited.
Yeah.
Like, This is going to be real painful and limited.
I mean, Pyromancer is a 2/1 at 2, and it's only an uncommon, and that card's pretty busted.
I've heard some people talk about this card just saying, okay, you have 3 mana out, you play this guy and then play an opt and potentially look at 4 cards and draw 2. Yeah, with the mill card we just showed, this guy's busted. I'm thinking, and I did not come up with this, but I am going to share this that I found this on Reddit earlier today. Think about this. Turn 1, play an Aether Vial. Turn 2, play your second land and something else. Turn 3, violin Seagate Stormcaller. Cast Neoform. Sack Seagate Stormcaller.
Oh my god.
Copy the effect. Get Spike Feeder and Heliod Suncrowned. Get unlimited life past the turn.
Oh my god.
How do you like that, Doofer?
Oh my god. Yeah, that's nasty. I feel like there's probably an infinite combo somewhere in there too that like we're just overlooking. But the fact that you don't need to kick this spell, like, you know what I mean, for it to be good. Like for 2 mana, it's a fork that is less restrictive, or not a fork, but a twin cast that's less mana restrictive, does the same damn thing just about. And you've got a 2/1 body to back it up, dude. It's so nasty. This card is one of the best in the set.
I'm a huge fan of Seagate Stormcaller. Doofer, I'm gonna post this. I actually copied and pasted this from Reddit, and I'll put it in the chat.
Yep. Insane, dude. All right, so are you ready for my final pick of the day?
Yes.
All right, here it is, guys. I had it at number 1 on my list, but those were in no particular order. I still really love this card. This card is called Throne of McKindy.
Woo.
Throne of McKindy. Here, scroll down a little bit so they can see the text. So it's a land.
It's also over here. I mean, the text is big.
But if you're like me, you like to read the actual card text.
Oh, go ahead.
But anyways, so it doesn't come into play tapped, right? Taps for a colorless. So this is making just about like every artifact deck that you can imagine. Like this is because if you have those sandbaggy turns where you're not doing anything, suddenly it taps for 2 mana next turn. Like, even if you're just putting this out like turn 2 and you're not doing anything, it's like blam, you can jam a counter on it and then you've ramped up. Like it keeps ramping. Like that's the thing. It's a ramp spell all the time. So if you just,
I was not saying that.
If you value this card, like if you just play it for its value, you don't try to bust it or anything. It's so sick. Like it's so much value here. But then if you want to bust it, man, does it get ridiculous. Like, so I have always been a fan of lands that put counters on themselves. Not because I'm a Hardened Scales player.
Not because you're a Dice Factory player.
Not because I'm a big Dice Factory fan.
Keep going.
Because way back in the day, one of my favorite combos was to use the time counter that goes on Glacial Chasm and remove it with something else and then do some busted shit with it. Like I had this little combo, Power Conduit. If you guys haven't ever seen that, bring it up for him. Bring up Power Conduit. If you haven't heard of this card, good, because not many people have. But this card is so sick, dude. So Power Conduit is a 2-drop artifact. And it says, tap, remove a counter from a counter from a permanent you control. Then you can do some crazy shit with it. You can put a charge counter on something, or you can put a +1/+1 counter on something. So I've always been a fan of things that just generate counters on their own that are hard to deal with, such as a land, right? So like you could then throw this in an artifact deck, maybe with Glacial Chasm, maybe with Throne of McKindy, and you could take that counter and turn it into a 1/1 counter. You could turn it into a charge counter on something else. Like you can move it around. But one of my favorite things to do was take that time counter on Glacial Chasm, rip it off with Power Conduit, so I didn't have to keep paying an additional life, right? So you rip the time counter off it and you put it on Jit as a charge counter, and then you gain 2 life. So I'm gaining 1 life.
You're a nasty bastard.
And you can't damage me. Like it was.
You're a nasty bastard.
I was like tricky mofo right here. But that's why. So any land that because lands are inherently a little harder to deal with than most other permanents. that generate counters, I really love it. But the fact that like the counter that this generates is so valuable, and the fact that you are ramping with a land in and of itself is so nasty.
I
and
think
that is
you're
of
right.
any one color, any color.
Way under the radar.
Man, this is like no one's talking about this. This card's so
you
good.
can only spend that on kick spells.
Are you shitting me?
Read the last sentence.
I got too excited too quick. You just took the wind out of my sails.
I'm really sorry, Mike. I was excited about that.
No wonder no one's talking about this card. It's garbage.
Well, I'll tell you what. That card will work pretty well with my last card. I was going to say, this sucks. I love you guys. Love you guys.
Look, we planned it. Remember when I said at the beginning of the podcast I was bad at reading? You see it, folks. You see it.
All right.
God, that's embarrassing.
Let's move on. We'll get away from that. My last pick, and a lot of people are talking about this. This is not flying under the radar for anybody. Y'all know I love my colorless creatures. I love my Eldrazi. This is the only way that they allude to the Eldrazi in the new Zendikar set. Forsaken Monument is a 5-mana legendary artifact that anthems, colorless creatures get +2/+2.
Hey, you know what I just figured out that this card is really good with? Throne of mckindy.
Because whenever you tap a permanent for a wingding, you add an additional wingding. So Throne of mckindy becomes Eldrazi Temple.
Oh, shit.
And better than that, because
I don't take it back.
Because it taps for 2 for anything, not just Eldrazi.
Right. God damn, that's really cool.
And whenever you cast a colorless spell, you gain 2 life. So if you have this out, and so you say you have 5 wastes in play, the next turn you untap, you play your 6th waste, you tap for 12 colorless mana, you play an 8/8 walking ballista and gain 2 life.
Oh my God. Oh my God. So here's a question. Does this card make Tron at all? Like, does it? I mean,
I think Eldrazi Tron maybe, but I think most people would rather still be playing a Reality Smasher. Kawa thinks it's a good Tron card.
Yeah, I mean, I can see it, especially Eldrazi Tron. Maybe, like, I mean,
because you're attacking with creatures.
Yeah, like the fact that if someone plays like a Blood Moon on you or something, I guess that doesn't really work with Blood Moon, does it?
No.
But I mean, still, if you're casting colorless spells, gaining life, like,
I think Charlie's onto it, because what I think is E-Tron needs catch-up mechanics, and actually the gaining life.
It's better than it gains it more efficiently than Wormcoil Engine.
Yeah. Wormcoil Engine has to attack or block.
Yep.
But I honestly think, and this is pure speculation, and you've heard it here first. What's our old gal there that whenever you play an artifact, you make a Thopter?
Not Ella Damry, but it starts with an E, right?
It was just from a couple of sets ago.
Yeah. Pop quiz of the day. What card is Brad thinking of?
Sai, Master Thopterus.
Yes,
Thank you, Charlie.
yes.
Sai, Master Thopterus. All of these Thopter token creating, you could use the Planeswalker one. You could use Sai. Now you're talking about 3/3 flyers.
Damn.
That and making bucket loads of mana.
So is this,
So is it better as a lowered? Is it better as a catch up?
I can't help but think, like, when you start talking like that, the Krark Clan Ironworks decks.
Ooh.
Like, you know what I mean? That lost Krark Clan Ironworks, which was a huge mana generator, and was used to basically do the same thing. Like, just give you a mana boost. Granted, this isn't as busted in the mana sense, but it's all around pretty nasty.
Yeah.
Like it's going to allow you to play that type of deck, and like, yeah, you're not going to go infinite off some crazy convoluted combo, but like the value that you get out of it is hard to deal with. Like,
if you're playing an Emery or something where you're looping artifacts from the graveyard.
Yeah, I mean, or even if like you're just valuing like, this with Psy or this with, really like any of your artifact creatures, right? When you cast that stuff, you're gaining 2 life. It's something that like you're hitting 2 different zones now. Like I now have a bigger threat on the board, but also my life total is increasing. So it's like the game is
putting
falling
the gap
away
further and further from your opponent.
Right. And it's like, and now I'm also using my mana more efficiently. So it's really hitting 3 different zones that are completely separate and hard to deal with. Like you need to deal with that artifact. And if you can't, like there's so many angles that it gives you.
There's a reason why it's my number 1. So Kawa, I am on principle not talking about Verizal because F Simic cards in 2020.
It's so good.
Maybe we will get to it next week. We've gone about an hour, and Cooley does have a legion of Diablo fans waiting for him to get home and stream. Anything else you really want to hit on before we go out the door?
I would say this. If you're looking for cards to snap up this week, just a quick bit of my advice, right? I've been a big fan, you guys know, of Chandra, Torch of Defiance. And recently it was reprinted in a set, and it's brought its price down, dude. Like, this used to be all day, like a $20 card. It went down to $12 for a while.
Do you have a version that you prefer?
The $9 one. Whatever that one is. Like, oh man, is it even less than that now?
It looks like the original Kaladesh is closer to 6.
Oh my god, yeah, dude. This is approaching $5 Planeswalker right here. For a Planeswalker, mind you, that is a 4 of in some legacy decks. Like, granted, they're often Dragon Stompy or like the
off the beaten path decks,
but still very competitive ones. Like, the Dragon Stompies or your Grindstones, like, those style of decks. Whenever a card like this shows up as a 4 of in any competitive legacy deck, you should really draw your attention to it and be like, okay, so the power level of that card must be very high. And I think that's what we see with Chandra, Torch of Defiance, is like, it's super powerful, man. No one can argue this card sucks. Like, this is really good. And it's a 4-drop Planeswalker. It's not outrageously expensive. And it just deals with so much shit. And it's now $5 or $6, dude. Like, this is, like, if you needed a playset,
snap it up.
This is the time. This is the time. Even if they reprint this a couple more times, it's probably not going much lower than that, man. Like, that's a pretty good price for this thing.
Speaking of a card that was just recently reprinted and is not probably going down too much in the near future.
Ooh.
And that is a equipment that is going to deal with some more other equipment things. Hammer of Nazan was originally printed in a recent Commander set. It was just printed in 2 X Masters. It's the only place where you can get it as a foil. This is sort of trending down. Keep an eye on this. I think this is a card that you probably want to have in your collection. And I don't think it's going to stay this cheap for very long, especially as more artifact and more equipment focused stuff is coming out in this set. And I strongly believe Kaldheim is going to have a heavy equipment theme.
Dude, just that static ability on there is pretty insane.
Yep.
Like, whenever another equipment enters the battlefield, you can attach it to a creature. Like,
and it's basically what they have now made artifact equipment do. Another card that I think is very undervalued right now.
Oh, I gotta see what this is at.
I don't know what's happening right here.
What?
But that's obviously just like since the 7th of September. But when you compare Croxa to Uro,
there's no way a foil. We got to look this up on eBay real quick. Foil Croxa. There's no way you can get that for like $16-17. That's got to be wrong. That's got to be wrong. So we're checking it out right now. All right. So I see some for like 30, but those are buy it now prices. That doesn't mean that's what people are paying.
Best offer, buy it now. 26
Yeah.
or best offer. $22.99, buy it now.
Yeah, they're just
22.0 bids, 21, buy it now.
that seems about more reasonable, but even so, a $23 foil Croxa.
What was this saying?
That was a $20 card just in and of itself, not foiled, not long ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that foil price seems a little off. I'm not sure how it got there, but yeah, like still, even at that, I mean, $16 for that card is pretty good. Like, it's one of those cards that you see this used in Modern a lot. Like, it's everything. It's like a Blightning. It's a Blightning, dude. And yeah, it's not going anywhere. This card's going to be used in formats for quite some time.
Okay. Last card I want to talk about today, and this is a signpost for looking ahead to Innistrad vampires and Innistrad werewolves. All of the vampire cards that you think that you might want, we have to evaluate whether or not they're likely to be reprinted in an Innistrad vampire specific set or an Innistrad specific werewolf set. I don't think that they are going to reprint Sorin Imperious Bloodlord in that set. There will be another Sorin probably.
Well, not only that, but they're going to print likely some nasty vampires
that you are going to want to put into play with this card.
Right. And this is, and when they do that, we were talking about this when they spoiled this card, or even, just not even a month ago, we were saying this is a Modern show and tell.
Yeah.
We're just waiting for a busted vampire to come out. And suddenly you have a Modern show and tell right here.
And looking at the price graph here, this has bottomed. It has started climbing. And again, although you can tell that the price was higher back here when it was seeing play in Standard and when it was seeing play, there was the Standard Vampires deck. I loved that deck. But it bottomed out and is coming back now. So if you don't have them now,
some people are catching on to exactly what you're saying. Is that like, vampires are coming and they're going to be a big thing.
What I'm putting down.
So get them, snap them up. Guys, thank you so much for joining us on the Snapcast podcast.
All right, David, who's your new commander? Hit it.
Yes, we do have to know this. This is very important. And while he lets us know, we want to thank you guys for joining us. It's always fun to jam, interact with you guys while we talk about one of our favorite games, Magic the Gathering. So guys, thanks again for joining. We will see you soon. We're anxiously awaiting Doofer's new commander deck.
So we haven't said it yet today, but if you haven't already, like the YouTube channel, that would be awesome. Share it with your friends if you would. Subscribe if you haven't. We also do have the audio podcast over on Apple, Google, wherever you would want to listen to an audio podcast. So if you can't be here with us live on Thursday nights, listen to us in your car Friday morning. The Snapcast podcast, not to be confused with any imitations or competitors.
That's right.
And we're waiting now with bated breath. Atraxa Praetors.
You friggin' meta.
God damn you, son of a no.